About this, John Carney, Breitbart Finance and Economics editor and co-author of the daily Breitbart Business Digest, and E.J. Antoni, Heritage Foundation economist and Unleash Prosperity Hotline. Okay, John Carney, I see a shift here. I see two shifts. Number one, negotiation. At the very beginning, we weren't going to negotiate, we, the president. And number two, it looks like Scott Bessent is ascending. You tell me if you think that's right or wrong, but it sure sounds like he is.
No, that's absolutely right. Scott is the perfect man to do this negotiation. He understands, particularly beginning with Japan, he understands the Japanese economy better than most people in Japan, frankly. And he is a perfect man to send out there to do this kind of negotiation. I think the other thing that we're going to see with Scott and these negotiations is exactly what you were talking about. The goal was never to have the reciprocal part of the tariffs be permanent. It was to convince the rest of the world to open their markets to us.
Right.
And that's the way this is going. That's the way it should go.
Yes. DJ, I just think that's a very important point. Look, I don't know whether you agree with me or disagree with me. To me, the trade balance, the trade deficit, come on. We buy their goods, we put out money, their money comes back. Trade deficits equal capital inflows. That's what Laffer taught me years ago. But the point is, I'm interested in a level playing field. I think that's what Mr. Trump wants. I want us to be able to have market access in Vietnam, in Taiwan, in India, for example. I'd like it in China, too, but the Chinese are going to be impossible. So, all right, we're not going to get it done there. In Brazil, in Argentina, in the European Union. Market access so we can sell more of our own exports. Now, again, I think Scott Bessent is the right guy to do this. By the way, I don't want to short shrift Jameson Greer. It's just that the Treasury Secretary is the highest guy in that pecking order. But I think market access, E.J. Antoni, that's what we need.
Larry, that's exactly right. I think that whole analysis is spot on, including the fact, frankly, that Secretary Bessent really, I think, is the best man for the job here. Not only is he the master of sovereign debt markets, but he's also just a financial wizard generally. So there's that very important point. But to this whole question of a trade deficit and capital flows, the president was touting the fact that Hyundai is going to be building a steel plant in the South. So not only are they going to be making cars here, they're going to make the steel here too that's going to go into those cars. Well, where are the Koreans getting the money for that investment? They're getting it from the other things that we buy from them. So cash is flowing from us to Korea so we can buy their stuff, and then that cash flows back here in the form of investment. That is a win-win, as Dr. Laffer was saying earlier, because now we're getting the products that we want, and they are getting the investment that we want, and both sides are getting income from that investment, and we're getting jobs here.
I mean, that, by the way, is very, very well put, E.J. Thank you. John Carney, in his heart, and I've heard this, I was with him in the first term several times. Look, I think Mr. Trump would like 0-0. Now, I understand it's maybe not just tariff rates, that some cases you've got very tall non-tariff barriers. I think China is just about the guiltiest one when it comes to non-tariff barriers, but they're not the only ones. I get that, and I think that has to be taken into account. But you've got a lot of people talking about 0-0. I kind of like that. I would try to build on that. Now, I don't know how far that can go, but I would try to build on 0-0.
Donald Trump actually proposed this, Larry, in his first term. He went up in front of a microphone when he was meeting with the leaders of all of the developed nations and said, I want to get to a place where there are no trade barriers. We'll bring down our trade barriers, you bring down yours. And by the way, it was flatly rejected. All our trading partners said, no way, no thanks, we're not going to do it. I think he's actually been able to use the leverage of the reciprocal tariffs this time around to get this done. They looked at that chart and they said, oh, they're serious about it this time. They're not joking around. We better come to the table and negotiate. I think this will move us to freer trade. And I do think you are right that it will also move the trade deficit down. I don't think the trade deficit is going to zero, but I do think when we have better access to markets, when our companies are treated fairly, then the trade deficit comes down.
Yes, down, but not out. I wouldn't obsess about the trade deficit. I thought those calculations have been uniformly panned from the left and from the right and all the rest of it. But I don't think that has to be. Those calculations won't mean all that much when they're actually face-to-face negotiating. E.J. Antoni, China's hopeless. They're absolutely hopeless. And so that's the way life is. And there's a part of me, I'm glad Mr. Trump is putting another 50% in there. I don't care. If they won't play ball, if they won't be rational, so be it. You know what? I know everyone's worried about China transshipping to Vietnam and places like that. Remember, Vietnam knows how to make stuff. Maybe it's better we move the stuff to Vietnam. China gets hurt a lot. China's had a monopoly over there. Now maybe they won't have a monopoly. Same with Malaysia. Same with all these Asian countries. As long as there's no transshipping, we can hurt China. We don't need them. We don't need them as much as we used to. That's for darn sure, EJ.
Larry, again, I think that's exactly right. And to your point on the reciprocal tariffs, the goal here being to get rid of tariff and non-tariff barriers as we start cutting these deals with other nations, which hopefully will materialize very, very soon. We will start boxing out China. We want to make sure that this is America first, not America outcast, right? We want to make sure that we get these trade deals done so that we don't push nations into China's orbit. We want to instead pull nations out of China's orbit. And to your point on just how bad China is doing right now, it's difficult to get accurate numbers from them. But given the different publicly available data we have, it does seem like their economy is already shrinking. They are, in anticipation of these tariffs, dumping massive stimulus into their economy. And they're also devaluing their currency as quick as they can to try to offset some of the effects of the tariffs. The offshore yuan just hit a record low against the dollar today. So I think it is clear that if we play our cards right, we are going to win this hand against the Chinese Communist Party.
Yeah, again, China's impossible. There is currency manipulation. John Carney, the king of the non-tariff barriers is Europe. Okay, I mean, really, they're 0-0 on goods, which is what von der Leyen, the president, is for. Now, that's an example. I admit, non-tariff barriers are a big problem because they want, pharmaceuticals, or they want to put fees on all of our digital service companies and things of that sort. I mean, EU, I agree. Not everybody else has such big issues, but the European Union, I would take it just with a grain of salt. England, much better. Maybe some of the countries by themselves, much better. I hope Ireland keeps its low corporate tax rate of 12.5%. But the EU, wouldn't trust them as far as I could throw them, John. Sorry, but that's my view.
I think that's right, Larry, that they really need to. The EU is going to have to make the changes before their tariff comes down, because you cannot take their word for it. As you know, they will tell you everything you want to hear and then do none of it at all. So we really do need to say to Europe, show me first what you're doing to open your markets. They have such a Byzantine system of non-tariff barriers that you could not even figure out which ones you want them to remove. It is a web that's meant to keep imports out. We need to get them to get rid of that. I think they will, because ultimately they really want to sell into our market. If we push them hard enough, I think they'll come around. Yeah,
well, I would just say this as a supporter of the Trump policies of reciprocity. I mean, I think he's got a lot of these countries over the barrel. And I think, if executed properly, so much good can come, so much progress can come, and a lot of markets will be open to us, and we will have a fairer, more level playing field. Anyway, John Carney, E.J. Antoni, thanks to both of you. Appreciate it.